There's a particular light that falls on the California coast in late September, an amber that turns every wave into fire. That's when I feel most myself. Not as a physical therapist or the woman who once led sunrise meditation retreats in Ojai, but as Isla, someone who never really found her rhythm on dry land, who feels most alive in the shimmer between ocean and sky. I didn't start surfing until I was nearly 33. Before that, my life was all landlocked and carefully structured. Office job. Commute. A string of polite relationships that never stirred the deep waters inside me. By the time my son Finn turned 12, I was already easing out of my career and into the tide, taking clients part-time, spending more mornings chasing waves than checking inboxes. It wasn't about ambition, not really. I never entered competitions. I never wore logos. It was the way the ocean erased everything else. That's what I wanted Finn to have, something that couldn't be commodified or corrupted. Something sacred. He's 20 now, towering over me at 6'2" with the kind of quiet calm that turns heads without meaning to. We live in a weather-worn cottage near Morro Bay, where salt gathers in the windowsills and gulls call like ghosts overhead. People sometimes ask if he's my boyfriend. I used to laugh. Now I just let the moment pass like fog. 3 years ago, I briefly dated a man named Sean. A biologist. Handsome in a rugged, textbook way. He liked my independence, or so he said. But when I shattered my knee on a bad fall, surfboard flung, leg caught under a reef, he wasn't the one who sat beside me in the ER. That was Finn. I remember the ambulance lights washing over his face. I remember his hands, calm and certain, pressing warmth into mine as I shook from shock. I remember thinking, not for the first time, that no one had ever looked at me with such full presence. The surgery was clean. The recovery was not. I was bedridden for weeks. The ocean, once my lifeline, became a sound I couldn't reach. And Finn, he was there. Cooking. Cleaning. Reading me Mary Oliver poems at night when the pain wouldn't let me sleep. And I saw him. Not just as my son, not just as the boy who once brought me seashells as gifts, but as a man. Grounded. Unflinching. That's when the quiet began. Not silence, but something else. A tuning. Like two notes vibrating in sympathy. No words were needed. Just the way he helped me to the bathroom without flinching. The way he brushed my hair when I couldn't lift my arm. The way he looked at me like I was still whole. On the 32nd night, I couldn't sleep. Pain had settled into something dull, and the moonlight carved silver across the ceiling. I heard Finn padding down the hall, barefoot, his shadow stretching beneath my door. "Mom," he whispered. "You need anything?" I almost said no. But instead I said, "Stay." He hesitated, then pushed open the door. The old floorboards creaked under his weight as he crossed the room and lowered himself into the armchair by my bed. We didn't speak for a while. Just listened to the wind moving through the pines. I could feel him watching me. "You okay?" he asked, voice quiet. "Getting there," I said. He nodded. Then, almost a whisper, "You scared me." My throat tightened. I scared myself. There was a beat of silence. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he said. I turned toward him then, our eyes meeting in the low light. There was nothing flirtatious in his gaze. Nothing forbidden. Just depth. Care. A kind of love that most people go their whole lives without ever receiving. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. But even then I wondered. We stayed like that for hours, him dozing lightly in the chair, me watching the moon trace its path across the wall. At one point, his hand drifted to mine and we stayed like that, connected, not as parent and child, not as patient and caretaker, but as something more timeless. When dawn came, soft and golden, I realized something. The ocean hadn't left me. It had simply changed shape. Recovery, they say, is a straight path until it's not. Mine curved like the coastline, unexpected swells, moments of stillness, then days where everything flooded at once. I learned to walk again in slow, awkward steps. The ocean watched me through our windows, patient, distant. Finn rarely left the house those first 2 months. He rescheduled his classes at the local college, picked up a flexible shift at the co-op, and filled the rest of his days with care. Unspoken things sat between us, neither shame nor yearning, but something harder to name. Devotion, maybe. Something sacred and unresolved. It was in the way he adjusted my pillows without being asked. The way he rubbed my foot gently while pretending to watch documentaries. The way he learned to braid my hair when I couldn't lift my arms above my head. "You're going to make some woman very lucky," I told him once, not entirely sure why the words felt like they had caught in my chest. He had looked up from the couch, where he sat cross-legged with my foot resting on his thigh, his expression soft and unreadable. "Maybe," he said after a moment. "Or maybe I'm already lucky." I turned back to the television then, the quiet of the room stretching wide. I didn't respond, couldn't. Something fluttered in my stomach, unexpected and ancient. A feeling I remembered from long ago when I first discovered what it meant to be looked at not as a role or responsibility but as a presence. A being. One evening, after a follow-up appointment, I asked him to take the scenic route home. We drove in silence along Highway 1, the cliffs falling away to the sea on our left, twilight brushing the sky in pale lavender. My brace was finally gone, replaced by elastic tape and the ache of healing. "Pull over," I said suddenly. Finn glanced at me. "Here. Right there." I pointed to a gravel shoulder where the grass gave way to a path I used to hike before the fall. We stepped out of the car. I leaned against the frame, breathing in the salt and eucalyptus. He stood beside me, arms folded, watching the tide come in. "You used to bring me here," he said. I smiled faintly. "You were maybe 10. You called it the edge of the world." He chuckled. "It felt like that." We didn't say anything else for a while. The sky darkened. Wind curled around us like a shawl. Then he spoke again, voice quiet. "You don't let people take care of you." "Not really." I turned toward him. "I never needed to. Until now. I'm glad I was the one who could be here," he said. I studied him in the fading light, his profile strong but not hardened. There was a steadiness in him I hadn't seen before. Or maybe I had and just hadn't named it. "I don't know what I would have done without you," I said. "These months, they would have broken me." Finn turned toward me, and for the first time I saw tears in his eyes. Not dramatic, not loud. Just there, quiet as dew. "I didn't want to lose you," he said. "Not like that. Not without saying everything." I tilted my head. "Everything?" He hesitated. "I mean," he paused, looking away. "I've always felt like we were more than just mother and son. Not in a wrong way. Just more." My breath caught, but I didn't move. He wasn't wrong. It wasn't wrong. Just more. That night back home, we didn't speak much. He made soup. I lit candles. We sat across from each other at the table, the shadows of flame dancing between us. At one point, I reached across, brushing a fleck of parsley from his cheek, and his eyes closed briefly at the touch. When he opened them again, they were unreadable. Deep. Unafraid. Later, in the quiet of the house, I stood at the mirror in my bedroom, brushing my hair slowly. I caught his reflection behind me. He had come in to say goodnight, but stopped at the door. "You looked like your old self just now," he said. I met his eyes in the mirror. "She's still in here." Just taking her time. He stepped closer, gently took the brush from my hand, and began running it through my hair with reverence I hadn't expected. Each stroke was slow, deliberate. I closed my eyes. "This okay?" he asked. I nodded. "More than okay." When he finished, he pressed a soft kiss to the top of my head. "Sleep well," he whispered. As he left the room, I felt something inside me shift, not a breaking, not even a pull. Just a turning. Like a tide beginning to rise, slow and certain. And I let it come. The next morning, I woke early. My leg ached in the dull, pulsing way that warned rain was on its way. The sky outside was mottled with gray, the kind of fog-heavy morning that clings to the skin. I made coffee slowly, leaning against the counter, the heat of the mug grounding me. Finn came in barefoot, hoodie thrown over a white tee, hair mussed from sleep. He rubbed his eyes and yawned, then poured himself a cup, wordlessly taking the stool across from mine. Quiet between us was easy. Familiar. "Storm's coming," he murmured, staring out the kitchen window. I nodded. My knee knew before the clouds did. A pause. Then, softly, "Last night, it felt important." "What you said." I didn't answer right away. I wasn't sure I could. My fingers toyed with the handle of my mug, knuckles white. "It was," I said eventually. He leaned forward, elbows on the counter, studying me in a way that made me feel like a field of exposed film, everything captured, nothing hidden. "Have you ever thought," he said slowly, "that maybe the way we've always been isn't an accident?" I met his gaze, heart thudding. "Finn," I began, but he stopped me gently with a raised hand. "No expectations. Just honesty." I let the silence stretch. The wind tapped at the windows like a memory trying to get in. "Some nights," I said quietly, "I dream we're just two people who found each other in some other life. Same souls, different names. And we sit by the sea just like this. You say something funny. I laugh. And it feels like everything's whole." He didn't smile. He didn't look away. "That's how I feel every day." My breath hitched. The storm rolled in by noon. Sheets of wind battered the shore, waves gnashing against the cliffs with unrelenting rhythm. Finn lit the fireplace, brought the old blanket from the linen chest, and we curled into the couch, close but careful. We watched the storm for hours. At some point, I drifted off, head resting lightly on his chest. His arm was around me, not in a way that claimed, but in a way that anchored. When I woke, it was dark. The only light came from the flames and the faint flicker of the television left on without sound. "I didn't mean to fall asleep," I whispered. "You needed it," he said. I sat up slowly, stretching. Then I saw it, his sketch pad resting on the coffee table. He didn't draw often anymore, not since he switched majors. But there it was, flipped to a fresh page. I reached for it instinctively. "Wait," he said, too late. The drawing was me. Not just a likeness. It was raw, intimate. My eyes closed. Head turned to one side. The curve of my collarbone visible above the edge of my robe. I froze. Finn watched me, expression unreadable. "I sketched while you slept. I wasn't going to show you." I ran a fingertip along the edge of the paper. "It's beautiful," I said. "I didn't draw your face the way I usually do," he said. "I drew it how I see you." "And how do you see me?" "Brave," he said. "Soft. Tired. Still beautiful. Especially when you think no one's looking." My heart stuttered. He reached out slowly, took the sketchbook from my lap and set it aside. Then, as though drawn by gravity, he leaned in. His forehead touched mine barely. Just a point of contact. No more. His breath mingled with mine, warm and slow. "I don't want to ruin what we have," he whispered. "Then don't," I whispered back. "Let's just stay here. For now." We sat like that until the fire burned low, the storm settling into something quieter. I rested against him again, this time awake, this time aware of every heartbeat between us. 3 weeks passed. The storm had long since blown out to sea, but its echoes lingered, in the soil, in the swells, in the space between us. Not silence, but reverence. I was walking again, stronger every day. I could make it down to the beach by myself now, though Finn always hovered at the edge of the trail, watching, pretending not to. We didn't speak of the drawing again, or the closeness, or the night we sat forehead to forehead while the fire carved shadows across the walls. But it was there, woven into the quiet. Not dangerous, just delicate. One crisp morning, he appeared in my room with a folded wetsuit in his arms. "You're ready," he said simply. I raised an eyebrow. "You're serious?" He nodded. "The water's warm enough." I checked. "We don't have to go far. Just paddle. Float. Let it all come back." I hadn't worn the suit in months. My fingers trembled slightly as I zipped it. When I stepped out onto the sand, Finn was already waiting at the shoreline, 2 boards dug into the earth beside him like spears. He smiled when he saw me. And I remembered then what joy looked like on his face, unfiltered, boyish, free. Paddle was slow. My body remembered what to do, but like an old song played on a warped record, the rhythm faltered. Finn kept near, mirroring my strokes. When we reached the break, we sat astride our boards, bobbing with the sea. It's strange, I said. The way it feels like I never left, and also like I've forgotten everything. You haven't, he said. A pause. Then, when you were in surgery, I sat in the parking lot for hours. Didn't even go inside. Just watched the windows and told myself you'd come back. I turned to him. You're not the only one who was afraid, he added, voice low. We floated for a long time. Then, gently, the sea gave us a wave. It wasn't big. Not challenging. But it rose with elegance, a promise, not a dare. You take it, Finn said. I hesitated. Then I angled my board. First few strokes were awkward. My shoulder screamed. My leg buckled slightly. But I kept going. The wave caught me like it remembered who I was. Like it had been waiting. And for the first time in months I flew. Didn't last long, but when I turned and saw Finn clapping above the foam, his smile was the sunrise itself. We returned to shore slowly, boards tucked under our arms. I collapsed into the sand, breathless and laughing. He dropped beside me. You did it, he whispered. I did. We lay side by side, the tide lapping near our feet. Then, without looking at me, he asked, What do we do now? I knew what he meant. I reached for his hand, not to claim but to hold. We live, I said. We build. We keep this between us. This sacred knowing. No names. No definitions. Just us. He nodded, eyes closed. You're still my favorite person. And you mine. Weeks passed. Then months. He moved out in early spring, gently, respectfully. Not out of distance, but of necessity. To grow. To test the world again. He found a place in town. Close enough to surf, far enough to breathe. I returned to teaching slowly. Smaller classes. Gentle waves. I smiled more. I dreamed again. Some nights we'd walk the beach. Talk about the books we were reading, the lives we were shaping. He'd brush his arm against mine, and we'd smile, but never cross what we both understood was sacred. We never labeled what happened that winter. There was no need. It had been a love story. Not the kind that asked for fireworks or declarations, but the quiet kind. The enduring kind. Kind the ocean keeps for itself. And whenever I'm out on the water, I feel it, that soft, familiar current beneath the surface. Presence. A memory. A love that didn't ask to be explained. Just remembered. I didn't ask what it meant. And he didn't explain. But something had changed. It was no longer just the ocean that remembered us.